Okay, so it's I don't know when the last time is I vlogged, but it's probably been a few weeks. Mm. Truth be told, I just turned 40. It's a big number. It's a major threshold, more than going from 20 to 30, in my opinion. And I think the pressure between how many decades of tradition of how to regard turning 40, it's classically when you're 40, you're like really old in a sense. Like if you remember the show Cheers, um, a number of those folks were in their 30s, like early 30s, whatever, but they're all dressed like adults, like what you would expect out of someone in their 40s and 50s. And Cheers was what, in the 80s, early 90s? So since then, society has evolved where youthful demeanor, youth culture started pushing back against what is considered older. And I think what's happened in the last 2 decades in particular, if not the last 3 decades, is that more and more people have adopted the type of culture and inevitably tradition where age is just how you feel. So even though there are um, parts of the demographic in society, especially the ones in America, where they had kids early, um, and they end up following this tradition of where they start to participate in being old by the time they hit 40s and 50s, that's fine. But for those who are either single or really just don't care about the conditions of society and just want to retain some level of their youth and their energy and objectives, there are people who have enough wealth or advantage or just lifestyle preference where in their 50s they're still acting as though they're in their 30s or 40s, maybe even 20s for some people. For me, the only thing that ever changed for me in the last 20 years, going from the year of 20 years old up to 40, is just a matter of my confidence in understanding the pieces of principles and philosophy and self awareness that I choose to retain consistently enough over time. The confidence that I have in stringing belief and patience and flow have changed only in the sense of whether things cement or whether things shift and adopt new information of myself or society. So, given that point of becoming more confident in who I am and the upgrade and the changing and the editing of myself, it showed in terms of my personal action. 2015 is what I would say is the turning point for myself as an adult. 2015 was when I was 30 years old. And that's also the time when I learned about user experience and around the time that I also learned about systems thinking. And for those of you who know me, systems thinking and user experience are two things that I'm very passionate about. I've made it a part of my lifestyle, I've made it a part of my perspective. I don't talk like a lot of the people. I feel like I don't talk like a lot of the people that are speaking about these topics academically or on stage and stuff. Maybe I do. I just am not on stage. I'm not talking to hundreds of thousands of people. But in 2015 is when I found the catalyst. Sure, 10 years prior to that, or even no, 5, 6 years prior to that, I was lost. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go in my life. Uh, Without the strong, extensive network of knowledge on the internet, I was pretty much lost. I just at one point in my early 20s, I just took on the job of my ex girlfriend's family that was offering me a job because I didn't know what to do after doing retail for a while. I tried following my best friend at the time, Josh, in pursuing some sort of multimedia animation degree because I was really into entertainment and animation and video games. But that did help me. And I did work in the animation industry for a little bit as an associate producer, thanks to my buddy Matt, who I met through just taking in emails to do reviews for products, whether it's video games, movies, games, whichever. And side note, this is a pumpkin spice matcha latte. Very interesting experience. Anyways, so going from being a journalist on the side with my friends at Nerd Reactor, hanging out with them, enjoying, surviving. I wouldn't say I was super enjoying, I was just surviving and finding happiness within that survival. Between my one social group called Women for Asian Men that I met online through a video chat, or Nerd Reactor, or even my friends from high school, these predominantly three major groups of social groups that I was a part of helped me survive a number of years as I was trying to navigate figuring out what I wanted to do in life. So 2015 comes around. After working with Matt, he eventually turned me on to user experience, jumped into that at General Assembly, met a whole bunch of new friends there. And this is after I tried to pursue a degree in systems thinking, or no, in spiritual in-depth psychology. Did UX, did the startup scene, did agencies, eventually did corporate. Either way, I would say that the next leg, the next part of my evolution came about where 2019, when I moved out to Vegas. Vegas was when I felt the happiest. I felt the most content. Not happiest, most content. Because it was in San Francisco. I didn't feel the constraint of what I experienced in San Francisco. San Francisco, to me, was a test of my resolve. Because even though I had good friends out there that helped me out, I did not find the Bay Area easy to navigate in terms of comfort and basically the type of lifestyle that I wanted to carve for myself. And so after a year of trying to develop my career out there, thanks to Matt's help at the time, this was after I had done my boot camp in learning UX and doing startups for a little bit. I eventually left the Bay Area. I created this very complex scenario that allowed me to leave San Francisco, survive a year or two on unemployment, try to another thing like another agency, help build that up, and then that led to me deciding that I needed something different. I didn't want to compete with the students I had mentored, and so that led me to Las Vegas, which, to those that know, was its own miracle. Because, long story short, with my dad's recommendation to try applying for jobs out in Las Vegas through my industry, Vegas didn't really have much UX designers at the time. This was 2019. So when I sent my resume out to a notable tech agency, tech recruitment agency, they said they'll let me know if there's any jobs available, because right now they didn't have any. The next day they said, well, everyone is surprised and shocked. We just got a request for exactly what your credentials offer. And I just got a job like pretty fast, like a month or two later, after some series of interviews and some hiccups at the workplace. So that landed me in 2019 in Vegas. I felt the most content, as I mentioned. From there, I was able to explore, build what I felt was my adult life, starting from 2019. So I was already mid 30s at that time. Inevitably, or eventually, that led to my dad convincing me to buy a house, which is what this is that you've seen over the last few years after living in an apartment for a while. Pros and cons about buying a house. People said that after the first year you'd accept the fact that you'd enjoy having a house. Maybe that's the case 2 decades ago. I've always suspected for a long time now that owning a house was not great. And now we're seeing more financial analysts and influencers say, yeah, owning a house isn't the best idea. Especially, specifically when you have intentions of building something else. And the last few years, I've always had the intention of building something, a company, investing in either travel. Basically, I wanted to do more than what tradition told me I needed to do in order to fulfill my life in here at this time. And I've heard from people where they saw a lot of potential in me. I mean, even in high school, people said that I had CEO material. Even in the workplace, working for some major corporations, they trusted me with some major stuff. They wanted me to be involved with executive level stuff. Even though for the most part, in this level of achievement in my career, I am a principal or director level. And a lot of thanks to the people throughout my career, friends, coworkers, that have trusted me to manage a lot of things, because I do enjoy my work. There is not a time where I felt like this work sucks. I've been blessed. I've been gifted with work opportunities where I enjoy my coworkers. Even if the politics tore a lot of people down, that forced them to tear at me, sure, I can blame them for things, but at the same time, I totally understand the circumstances that everyone must engage in order to survive. All that means is that I need to defend myself better, out of respect to them and respect to me ultimately. Now, coming to this point, now that I'm just going to maintain this home, in the last 2 years, especially thanks to now being involved with a vampire, the Masquerade live action role play group, something that I never thought I'd ever do, but since I enjoyed the experience and the portrayal, the acting, the improv acting of things, because I've done it in tabletop with my friends Joe, Rhonda, Catherine, Chad, and Dave. I wanted to experience something more, and being a part of the By Night Studios Darkness Emergent live action role play crew, I've met a lot more friends who have a lot of the hobbies that I want to engage in, even more so than some other friend groups. And I've chosen to separate myself from some certain groups of friends because I needed to grow a particular direction, and it needed me to be behaving and prioritizing things in a certain way that was respectful to them as much as it is respectful to my time and focus. And so it's not necessarily personal to a lot of the friends that I've separated myself from. It's something that I needed to do to move towards the next step. And to cut to the chase, I wanted to do certain things, and it just so happened that a lot of it kind of came together before I turned 40. Two things, well, some things that were on my vision board. One is I wanted to become a part of a think tank, an organization that gathered some of the most brilliant, the most interested people in various different focuses in the world. being a part of the Darkness Emergent LARP, LA happened earlier this year in spring. Right before the event started, my friends and I, we just came back from spending, in the few days prior, we went to Disneyland, came back. The day that we arrived at the Biltmore Hotel, I came across this organization that had youth leadership as the focus at the time in that structure. I was very fascinated because I saw some of the programming, I saw some of the talks that were happening. I was like, this is my wheelhouse. Sure, I've been a part of the Systemic Design Association, which is an international group of professionals and academics that have come together to discuss and to collaborate over systems thinking. But I can't make most of those gatherings that they have on an annual basis or biannual basis. And I'm not awake when they hold most of these talks, and I'm not available when those talks are available. So even though I could write papers for the Systemic Design Institute, I didn't really appreciate the paper writing process. When well, let me clarify. So that event, that youth leadership event, I was interested, but I didn't think much of it. I just knew that it was the Aspen Institute. Later that evening, searched online. It's like, what is the Aspen Institute? I learned that Aspen Institute is one of the top organizations that is comparable to a think tank. Classically used to be the Club of Rome. Club of Rome, which I only learned of because of the old cyberpunk game Deus Ex, because it was a part of some sort of conspiracy theory of how people were trying to take over the world through FEMA and all that stuff. But I learned about the Club of Rome from that thing. So my gaming experience and culture has always been a part of me. I take it seriously because it guides how I creatively navigate existence. And so going all the way to this Aspen Institute, comparable to Club of Rome, it was one of my life goals to join a think tank. I couldn't figure out how to join one of its groups, this major group of professionals or thinkers. So I left it alone, but it's been on the back of my mind for months. Eventually, I just decided to look it up, found out that I can join the Aspen Institute through the Aspen Society as a philanthropist, just donating, and I needed to send in the donation before my 40th birthday. Around this time, my old best friend, Carmela, came back into my life. I supported her in her cybersecurity journey. She's made leaps and bounds since we've reconnected over the last few months. She's connected with some of the top professionals in cybersecurity and aerospace and space cybersecurity. So this video is not going to cover all of that because it's a crazy, immense journey that she's on. But her shared experiences and her connections have overlapped, and it was enough to push me forward in pursuing jumping into Aspen Society. So lo and behold, officially I am a part of Aspen Institute. I don't want to call myself a philanthropist, but I have donated to some major organizations and become a member of them, like whether it's what was it? Human Rights Campaign is one organization. I think that's what it's called. I'm trying to remember. The Arbor Society. Hold on, let me double check this. I can't just be making up these terms like I know what things I'm a part of. Yeah, so Human Rights Campaign is one. Arbor Day Foundation is the other. And I also joined the American Humanist Association. And I need to explain this one. Human Rights Campaign makes sense because you're looking at civil rights. And Arbor Day Foundation, because trees, from a systemic point of view, are foundational to the survival of the planet. And American Humanist Association is because I wanted to be more proactive in the awareness and the endorsement and the activity of civil rights in a way that is not necessarily involved with religious practices, because I know that there are various religious organizations that do civil service work, but I wanted it to be more centralized in a I don't need to be a part of a religion to do these civil works. Um, and so this was something that I was interested in engaging in, because the wonderful thing about the American Humanist Society or Association is that even though it may sound like it caters to the agnostics or the atheists or whatever, it's not denying anyone with religious background to engage in it, because the American Humanist Association has done good on behalf of even churches, if it defended their ability to, or their rights at the end of the day. Either way, uh, the organization predominantly has non-religious folk in there, or agnostics at best. But at the end of the day, the AHA is all about action. It's about civil rights by action. So I was very interested in that, and I'm part of that. But predominantly, that's just me supporting them from a financial and awareness aspect. But what's important to me is the Aspen Institute. Because the Aspen Institute, if you ever look into it, covers a lot of different things. A lot of it's just networking and community cultural support and cybersecurity and just a whole variety of stuff. And hold on, let me turn off Discord because it's going to keep pinging me. Beyond that, there's this other thing that I've been working on, and it's technically released, but I really want to fine tune the website. I have become a published author. Over the last year, I've been working on a children's book, and I've had a really good business strategy for it. It just required that I take a lot of what I have from my work and invest into it. I'd rather bootstrap it than rely on anyone else to help me kickstart it. And so my strategy is my purpose of doing this is impact the world by reinforcing the education of children regarding an emphasis in systems thinking. Because I knew, especially after a number of videos from doing Nerd Knots and just systems thinking in general, I would not be able to teach systems thinking on a broad level effectively. Because the way systems thinking is leveraged as an adult is oftentimes seen through business strategy, and there's various jobs that already exercise systems thinking as a aspect of the work, but it is not done in a multifaceted way on a daily basis in your life. When I learned back when I was in one of my English classes in high school, that one of the themes when you're a senior or junior was that among the instructors, they would emphasize critical thinking. They didn't really tell you how critical thinking worked. It just the simplest thing that they offered to emphasize critical thinking was the scientific process of analysis. But that's not enough, in my opinion. And that's why when systems thinking came into my life, I knew that that was the catalyst to get everything going. Let me check something real quick. Right. So systems thinking for me was going to be the catalyst that would change life. And I've practiced this. And it's made me a better person overall. To look at even relationships even the way I look at myself and look at things from a systemic point of view, and coupling with systems thinking, I apply also user experience, analysis and design. I was able to refine myself. And through that, I was also able to become more creative. And so all of this together comes back as to why I decided to choose children's books as a way to not create something new, but to establish a life goal of wanting to impact the world. And to do so, I knew that I could not limit myself to English alone. And I knew that I'd have to build up these children's books. So the first book I have is, I'll show you one of the draft copies. This was a work in progress. The finished copy is on its way. So the first book is this. This is not the finished one. This is a draft. You can tell the entire thing is like, it's off alignment. This needs to be shrunk. I already fixed that. It's a children's book. Yes, I made this. But I teamed up with an illustration studio out in Indonesia because I knew that I would not be able to do all the illustrations myself and still be able to handle the building of the business and to create the infrastructure of the business. So I was able to focus on something simple first. So the water cycle was something that I wanted to start with. And, and we have like illustrations like these in here. They did a fantastic job. I really appreciate working with them. And it's something that I want to keep doing as a part of my life's mission of impacting the world. And so I have this book translated into multiple languages. Right now, the English one is released. You can buy it now if you want. As I try to refine the website and try to look at the way to refine the user experience of the e-commerce side. Truth be told, at one point, when I was working in one of the companies, I actually wanted to revolutionize e-commerce, and we had the dev capacity to do it, but the entire e-commerce division was laid off, including me, before we were able to achieve this industry-changing thing that I wanted to architect. But for now, I'm just going to leverage what tools are available, since I don't have a dev team, to refine the e-commerce options for acquiring this book. The hardcover is available right now on the GaiaGauge.com website. I'm working on the paperback for accessibility through Amazon. I need to fix some of the cover to allow myself to have a paperback version. But yeah, bootstrap. I did all of the research, all the strategy myself. The only thing that was really in someone else's hands were just the actual content, the illustrations of this book, and the translations of it, because I need help. I hired people to help me translate the story. And the second book is actually already done too, and that one covers the garden cycle. This was not all the illustration studio's idea. Some of it, like the design of Droplet here, I told them to design it this way, drawing inspiration from some of the Korean anime Ragnarok Online style like thing, because I had a preference for the aesthetic, and then everything else was up to their design. And the same thing happened with the second book. And then there's also a third book. I have up to 5 stories that are already finished. It's just a matter of doing the translations for the second book and onward. So yeah, that's the first children's book author now. There is another business that I want to start, but I want to focus on refining this first. But here's the announcement. I turned 40, and I'm a philanthropist, and I'm also a children's book author at this point. So with that said, this was my long video. This is probably the longest I've ever recorded in a while. And thanks to all my friends and family for supporting me this far. I'm glad to now be confident enough with myself to know where I want to go next and know where the next few decades of my life need to be. So eventually I'll have a video that covers those future plans. I tell people that, you never know what happens in 10 years, but for now, I have broad stroke milestones that I'd like to hit, um, that go beyond just building businesses. With that said, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and catch you guys later.